Reading comprehension, what does it measure? It measures your ability to comprehend and to infer from the available passage. So there are two things which you need to do. First, you need to comprehend. That means you need to understand things that are stated, and you also need to understand things that are not stated. Okay, when we infer, that means we have to read between the lines, we have to understand the clues left behind by the author, and on that basis we answer questions. So that is why it becomes challenging. If it was just a measure of your ability to comprehend, then it would not be so challenging. But apart from comprehending, you also have to infer from the available passage. That is what makes reading comprehension a little bit challenging in comparison to other topics. Now, as you must be aware, reading comprehension is going to be the most time consuming and it will require the most attention. Okay, many students ask me, how much time should I devote for one question? How much time should I devote for one passage? How will you calculate that? A ballpark figure is approximately 2 minutes, not more than 2 minutes per question. Okay, when I say 2 minutes, so first thing what you will do, how much time will you devote in one passage? That depends on how many questions are there. If there are 4 questions, it means that you will not devote more than 8 minutes on that passage. This 8 minutes includes reading the passage and answering the questions. If you are exceeding this 8 minutes, then there is a very high probability that you will not be able to complete the paper. You will not be able to complete all the questions, and it is always advisable to complete the paper. Why? Because there is no negative marking. So don't leave any question. You need to answer every single question. If within this time limit you are not able to answer questions properly, that means that you will not be able to answer it. It's better that you guess the answer for that question and you move to the next one. There's no use wasting time on a question that will require more than 2 minutes. So this is how you will calculate. If there are 4 questions, that means you have 8 minutes. 8 minutes is a lot of time. So in 8 minutes, you have to read the passage and you have to answer the questions. If you're unable to do that, please move. Go to the next one. Just mark any answer based on some guess and then move to the next question. Now, if you look at your verbal, then the majority of the passages in the test are going to be short. They are going to be 1 or 2 paragraphs in length. But yes, there can be 1 or 2 passages that are several paragraphs long. So it's going to be a mix of short as well as lengthy passages. But most of the passages are not going to be very lengthy. They're going to be short. And typically about half of the questions in the verbal section will be based on passages. The number of questions based on a given passage can range from 1 to 6. So half of the questions in the verbal section will be based on passages. That means you should be ready for approx 10 to 12 questions from reading comprehension, because you have around 20 questions in the verbal section, and from a given passage you can expect anywhere from 1 to max 6 questions. Okay, this is how it is done. Now, another thing which you need to keep in mind is that the way they present the question to you, that is also slightly different. That may be different. So that you are not thrown off guard, I will just tell you that the question that they will present to you will be in 3 forms. Number 1, they will give you 5 answer choices, and out of these 5 choices you have to select only one as the answer. So if you come across a question and it has 5 answer choices, it means that you have to select only one as the answer. However, there are going to be situations where they are going to give you a question where instead of 5, there are going to be 3 choices. So if there are 3 choices, that means more than one answer is possible. So you will select all that apply. Okay. So how will you answer? All that apply. If all 3 are correct, then you will mark all 3 as correct. If 2 of them are correct, then you will mark 2 as correct. If only 1 is correct, you will mark only 1 as correct. But minimum 1 is going to be definitely the answer. Okay. So if there are 3 choices, more than one answer is possible. And finally, sometimes you'll see that there's going to be a question, but there will not be any option at all. Okay, so no question, but there will be no answer choice at all. These questions ask you to select the answer from within the passage. If you think that the answer is in line number 21, you will go to line number 21, because half of your screen if you look at the screen, then what will happen? The passage is always in front of. This is the screen. The passage will always be here. The questions will keep changing. When you move from one question to another, the right hand side keeps changing, but the left hand side remains there. So whichever line you think is the answer, go to that line. You will click on that line. That sentence will be highlighted and marked as your answer, and then you can move to the next question. Okay. So these are three ways in which you will answer. If there are 5 choices, only one can be correct. If there are 3 choices, more than one can be correct. If there are no choices, that means you have to select a sentence from within the passage.